and then onto a happy home. We have a guest today, Jackie. I'm not even gonna try your last name again. Tell me. Garousek. Okay. And Jackie's with Ionello Anderson. She's an attorney and does real estate and closings. And you said you were involved with title before this. You've got a history with the real estate biz. And she's going to talk to us about cybersecurity. So something that both Dawn and I had happen, and maybe others have too, very recently was somehow we were representing buyers, and someone got in between the buyer's attorney and the buyer's agent, and was directing the buyer like the day before the closing of where to wire funds. And luckily, you had your person was standing at the teller window, right?
Yep, somehow if someone saw that either it was the subject line or something, closing scheduled, whatever, and then it started intercepting my emails, and it looked like it was coming from me. It said Dawn Jacobson. It had my tagline, CM Fox. If you actually looked at the email, it was frontdesk@comcast.net. So it wasn't my email. And this person was communicating back and forth with my buyer, and they thought it was me, because it was being signed from me, but it wasn't. Directing them to go to the bank, wiring funds. My client was standing at the SEFQ counter the day before closing, because she thought if she didn't wire it, her closing was going to be delayed. And the teller had the foresight to say, who is this person you're sending it to? And she's like, oh, it's right here in this email. And it was just a generic white PDF that had a name of some person down in, I think it was like Yonkers or some place. She's like, well, why don't you just reach out to your attorney or your agent and make sure? She called me and I'm like, no. She goes, but you've been emailing me all day about this. And I'm like, no, that's not me.
I haven't.
Right, so I haven't had it happen since then, but that was the second time. The first time they were just asking for closing documents, but it was that same email, the front desk at Comcast.net.
And my situation was very similar, except luckily the client didn't get that far. She called me and said, didn't you tell me I wouldn't have to wire funds? And I said, yes, I did. And I know there's a disclosure, I've seen it from some other agencies talking about that, saying no one will ever ask you to wire funds. So I'm working on getting that together so that we can tell people. We just need to tell them, no one will ever ask you to wire funds. So
How much were they looking
that
for?
should be like thousands.
$12,000.
Yeah, like
So
the
it's
closing
not-
costs. No, they've been in the email, they know the
They know
numbers.
the number.
Yeah.
Oh, they have to read it.
So
Yeah.
how do they get in the
I
email?
don't know. That's the question.
That-
And was it the attorney's email or was it ours? We don't think it was our end because we're pretty secure, but who knows? But anyway, I'll let Jackie talk to us.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yes,
That-
Brian.
That happened when I was at my,
Jane.
I was at my other company, but they got in and the buyer wired $200,000.
Oh, dear God. Did they get it back somehow?
Oh, I doubt that.
And it was like a multifamily or something.
Oh,
Gee, same at Berkshire.
I was at
Big
Berkshire,
scary.
yeah, I didn't wanna say, yeah, it was at Berkshire,
Same
yeah.
deal.
Right.
$200,000.
Wow.
And they did the same thing, they hacked the agent's email and they were the agent saying,
Right.
wire it to this number and,
Posing as the agent, yeah.
yeah.
And there was someone actively replying to this,
Yeah.
throughout the day.
Right.
Right. Crazy. Jackie, it's all yours.
Yeah, no, I mean, the stories are great because everybody has the same story every single day. Like, it's kind of unbelievable that, and you're seeing it in the news a lot now, but people are still not recognizing it as consumers and they're still wiring the money. They're still taking those steps that they're directed to an email. So it's, it's kind of on our shoulders to get more education as much as we can.
Well, hopefully banks are educating their tellers.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest steps is getting that kind of, front line. But unfortunately, a lot of times it's, people just go in and do the transaction, or if you can wire online, there's not that level of personal,
Well, right, it would really
interaction.
be odd if your bank teller asked you what you were doing with the money, I would say, none of your business.
Yeah.
So that would be odd, but if there, a red flag at least came up and they, anyway.
And there are new banking regulations now where, it's called Know Your Client. So really, the bank teller should kind of be asking you those questions, but in this world where you're worried about your privacy,
Right.
people are gonna be reluctant to say what they're doing. But a good example of this, and why I'm kind of trying to get out and talk to all of the realtors, is because in Kansas, last month, the first decision came down. And a similar situation had happened. The hacker had gotten it in between the emails, had sent different wiring instructions to the buyer wired money, and I think the number was, so they wired $196,000. And the agent had been the one, they didn't forward the malicious email that changed the wiring instructions, but they had forwarded a wire instructions originally from the attorney. So the court found the real estate agent liable for 80% of that at $167,000.
Wow.
Wait, they found the agent?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because they had forwarded the original email, even though it was intercepted and changed, they had still forwarded it, so they found them to be at
So
fault.
they had,
So in Kansas, I think they're title companies instead of attorneys. But so they had come to closing, there had been somebody monitoring the emails obviously in between. So it had come to the closing time and they had sent, the attorney or title company had forwarded on an email that said, here's the instructions to wire your money. There had been somebody in between that changed that, but the realtor had forwarded it to the client. The
Wow.
original one saying, here's where you should wire your money. And because it was changed in there, it was the realtor's liability. Wow, yeah.
yikes.
Yeah, it's scary, crazy how it
So
works.
they think they're sending on the correct and original one and they got
And they
held
did.
liable
They did, right.
for the,
Right, it was changed between
The
the
hacked
realtor
one.
and, yes,
wow.
yeah. And the problem with it is too, is even if CM Fox has amazing security and has, encryption and, great, plans in place, they can still hack your buyer. And then they're still looking at your exchanges the entire time. And then all it takes is them to set up the fake email account that looks like it comes from Don or looks like it comes from whoever to change that. So they've seen everything that's gone on. They know how people are speaking, they know what they should be looking for.
I didn't think about that. I'm trying to figure out if they got into the attorney or the
It was probably
agent,
the
but it was
buyer.
probably the buyer.
Right, but you're not gonna know that unless you do a $25,000 forensic investigation to figure out where it came from.
Whoa.
And
And by
that's
then,
wants
the
to.
email's gone and the people are in
Right,
wherever.
exactly.
Can I ask the question?
Mhm.
So let's just say a buyer gets hacked into. Is it reasonable to assume that they're being hacked into by somebody they know? I mean, do these hackers just go around the world? I mean, millions and millions of people
Absolutely,
trying to find somebody
Yes.
to buy a house
Absolutely,
and they
yes.
hit on one?
Yes,
Any
They're probably
IT person
The
was
dark web.
constantly trying to get in.
Yeah, they're
So-
probably looking for
Looking
keywords.
for keywords, closing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, they're looking for keywords, okay, that makes more sense.
I get emails, probably everybody does, it says a closing, look at, here's a closing bill for you, and I know I
Right.
have
I get
nothing
that all the
scheduled,
time.
and I don't,
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
don't
even.
I just delete it.
That's one of the most important things because they're sending phishing emails continually. And a lot of times your spam filter will catch them, but if they don't, it's gonna come with something like that. And it might come through because it looks like something that is ordinary to your inbox. And in that case, you wanna make sure, it's better just to call them.
And here's the other thing, every real estate agent has their email on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's true.
So they can send out an email to every single one of us in 10 seconds.
Exactly.
And, hoping someone bites.
Yep.
Phishing.
Yes.
Right, phishing.
So it's not hard to get our emails. You ask now, that's it.
And many times it is something like, here, reset your password,
Yep.
or, whatever it is where you put in your credentials, and then they've got your account. And you're not gonna know it for however long until they grab something. So those are super important things that you guys, should be doing on a regular basis. They say to change your password every 90 days. It doesn't hurt to change it more. Everybody says use the, uppercase, lowercase number symbol. Don't do that. That's not any more effective than, regular. Use a phrase. Like,
interesting.
The phrase, that's what our IT guy said, a phrase.
Yeah.
Like,
I use my favorite song lyric.
Right.
What is it?
Interesting.
It's inappropriate.
Wow.
Oh,
Good
that's it.
answer.
It's inappropriate. Here's your password. It's inappropriate. Is there a period after that? Exclamation.
Right, so change your passwords, make them complex. Also make sure that if you guys are walking around with laptops or have several different computers, whatever you're using, make sure you're updating your systems, make sure you're patching. You wanna make sure that everything is up to date, your antivirus is up to date, and those are common sense things that I'm sure, you're doing, you're buying. So the first thing that I like to tell people is to just set expectations of your clients. In your very first meeting with a client, if you have them sign a listing agreement or, an agency agreement, whatever you're doing, depending on, the side, have them sign a document, and like Beth was saying, that just sets it out clear. I am never gonna ask you for wiring instructions, you're not gonna get an email from me, whatever you wanna say in that, just to make sure that their expectations are set at the outset. So
Would
that-
you suggest a disclosure for that and having them sign it
Yes.
even to cover our?
Yeah, I would have it as part of your packet for whatever you do on each side.
And that way we're forced to discuss it with them too.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
Becomes part of our.
And then if
Yes.
something like the Nebraska thing happened, we say, no, we told you, you
Right.
knew we wouldn't do
It
that.
at least gives you that
Right.
extra.
Okay.
Right.
But you're gonna do that, you're actually gonna develop a form.
Yep,
for
and
everybody.
we'll just put it right into the dot loop,
Perfect.
listing
packet.
the
packet.
packages, yep, the
I just got
templates,
one
that's.
that
Should
what
be the
we-
buyer.
Could put it in the listing and buyer
Yeah, it should
and
be
buying.
Both, yeah.
I
It
just
should
got
be
one
for
the other
everybody.
day from an agent, from a company.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
seen a few,
Yeah,
I was
send
trying
you
to
that one just
remember
to
who had them, yeah, that would be great, okay.
Yep,
Sorry
just
to
to make sure that they know what to look for, and then, like we said, it's a little CYA if, God forbid something does happen. It might not be 100%, but at least you put it out there.
Something.
And then also, don't do favors for people. Don't, I know that it's really hard not to assist your clients and help them do everything that they need to do, but don't send their bank statements, don't send copies of their social security cards. Just don't. Make them drive it to the bank. You drive it to the bank if you really want to, but don't do that either. But don't. You don't wanna have people's, private information, cause even if it's not changing wiring instructions, we still have an obligation to our clients to keep their information private. And when you're emailing on things like bank statements and, loan applications, anything like that, you just don't wanna be involved in it. It's great service now, but then when they get hacked, it's your phone, so.
And it's amazing because they trust us with everything.
Yeah,
They really,
absolutely.
they'll give us
Here's
anything
all
we
my
ask
stuff.
for.
Yeah, but when something goes wrong, you're the first person to blame. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is nice because usually I'm the first person to blame.
Oh. We'll run interviews.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't blame forever.
And we just talked about your dot loop, so always use the platform that your company has given you, and you guys are using dot loop, which is fantastic. You're gonna find attorneys out there who don't wanna open it. I don't know what to tell you about that, they have to open it.
Well, we can attach PDFs, so,
But does it stay encrypted if it's,
No.
right,
okay,
yeah, you only wanna send it through your dot loop.
gotcha.
So what can we say if somebody resists that our dot loop system is
But-
encrypted?
No, when you download it, it is allowed to be, sent.
That's a good. Yeah, when you're sending the message and you're sharing a document, you can opt to attach a PDF
Yeah.
of the
And
same.
it stays encrypted?
Yes.
Correct,
Yes.
alright,
Correct.
as long as it stays
Confirm
encrypted.
that, but
It
I
does
don't think
because,
it's encrypted though.
I don't
I'll find
either.
out.
No, I
Because you don't need a
Once it
password to
becomes-
open it.
Yeah, once it is attached
Oh.
as a PDF, it's no longer
It's just
encrypted.
a PDF.
Yeah.
Right.
but it says something about encrypting
I'll find out.
when you're downloading it.
I'll find out, we have a thing tomorrow.
That's a good thing
Yeah.
to know then,
Yeah.
to figure out either
Yep.
way. Because a lot of people are resisting the encrypted and the password protected information. We have attorneys on the other side with us that won't open them, and I say, well, then you don't get to have the information because I'm not gonna be responsible for somebody that just doesn't want to set up a password.
You're still the ones with the AOL accounts. though.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the other,
Yeah.
I gotta tell you though, there's
A
a,
lot of them do.
to play devil's advocate, I've gotten some of those emails from attorneys,
And you
and then
don't
I
know.
think it's a freaking phishing scheme.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know, that's the problem. You gotta make a phone call.
I know, so I don't ever do it,
Yeah, I know. Everybody's having the same
not
issues.
cause I'm, get off my lawn guy, but I just
Yeah.
feel like I don't know.
Yep, yeah, until you're familiar with their system.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've had that, I, had home set on high alert one day because I thought that their encrypted email looked different than it normally